The opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of our sponsors and are only those of the individual commentators. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good evening and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben. Welcome to our Season 9 premiere. It's happening. It really is. It's happening. I'm joined by my expert panel, my brand new expert panel for the first time ever, Christina Mangiola and Jerome Bennett. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Good as can be.
Good as can be. Yeah. It's been a day. Yes, we're back. Can you believe it? Because I sure can't. After being kicked out of Ryerson due to the coronavirus pandemic, things have not been the same. But the key to success is to adapt, persevere, and keep going. At times, it's hard for me to grasp, but as long as you're above ground, there is a solution. Now, let's take the time to meet our panel. Christina Mangiola, please introduce yourself to our audience.
So my name is Christina. I graduated from McMaster about a year and a half ago. I did a double major in political science and communication studies. I currently work at a PR agency in Toronto. I'm not that interesting, not too many fun facts. That's the gist of it.
Amazing. And now, Jerome, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jerome. I'm a second-year politics and governance student at Ryerson, and I'm pretty much a politics nerd. Like, there's not really a lot of interesting things about ourselves, especially when you delve into politics every day. You kind of lose yourself. So,
yeah, it's politics and governance is a very popular program at Ryerson. Actually,
I don't know why. I honestly
no,
don't
you don't.
know
Why?
All the arts, it actually has the highest job rating. Honestly, 77% of politics and governance students get jobs, which is the highest compared to all the other arts at Ryerson. So,
Interesting.
Maybe that's a reason.
Well, I wish you success in your program, and
Merci
I'm
beaucoup.
so happy to have you both join the show. So this season, we've decided to change things up a bit. From now on, our main panel will consist of Christina, Jerome, and myself, and each week we'll have a guest join our panel. This week, it's a good friend and familiar face to the show, Elvira Caria. How are you, Elvira?
I'm very well, thank you, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me back. I wasn't sure if that was ever going to happen again.
Oh, of course it was going to happen. Why don't you tell
I am a baby boomer after all.
Why don't you tell our audience a little about yourself?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so here's the 15-second elevator pitch. I am a radio and television broadcaster with over 33 years experience. I have a talk show on AM radio, news talk radio, and I'm the half of a Scholes, which is John Scholes, and myself, Elvira Caria. So behind the microphone or in front of a microphone, however, which way you want to word it, is very familiar to me. So I'm really excited, and I'm very curious to see how this panel is going to kind of blend and meld into its own, because it's actually very exciting. So congratulations, by the way, on Season 9. I think that's the very first thing that we need to say.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a time, but it's all of quarantine. I've been working and trying to get this season up and running. And thank you to Christina and Jerome for being a part of it. Thank you to Elvira for your support throughout the entire process. Thank you to my best friend Kara, who got me this Raben Report sweater for my birthday.
It's sweet.
Thank you to my parents for supporting me. Thank you to everybody that supported me and the show. it's truly appreciated, and we're doing this thanks to you because you want it to happen, and we love doing it, so we really appreciate it. So coming up in 15 minutes, we'll be talking about our main topic, Coronavirus Part 2. But first, let's take a look at our top stories in our weekly update, starting with Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. She passed away last week, and now Trump is planning to fill her seat. He just submitted the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett to the Senate. What are your thoughts on that? Should Trump be filling that seat right away, right now? Christina?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, I didn't want it filled. It does seem kind of quick, but I mean, that's his call, so don't really know what opinion to have on that.
Elvira, what do you think?
Well, why is anybody surprised? I mean, if we know the history of the way Donald Trump runs a country, quite frankly, then this should not have been any surprise. If there's any opportunity where he can put in one of his own people, he's going to do it. I mean, that really is just, it's as simple as that. Whether you want to agree or disagree with him is irrelevant because at the end of the day, it was his call. He took advantage of it and he did it. Now, I don't know if that necessarily equates to being disrespectful. I mean, how long do you wait before it's proper? That could be his argument. I'm not necessarily agreeing. I'm just saying that when is a good time? When would be a good time to fill? The seat is void and it needs to be filled.
Well, the Democrats are giving him some serious problems about that. They don't want it filled. They want it filled come the next election. But the question is, let's say he wins the next election. Are they still going to say, no, wait to fill it after another 4 years? What do you think?
It won't matter because he's won the election. And if we haven't learned anything yet, is that Donald Trump does what Donald Trump wants to do. And whether, again, we go back to whether you agree or disagree, that is and remains the reality of the way the U.S. Is run right now. So what different, again, I go back to the same question, is what difference would it make if he runs, then this is part and parcel of why he's doing this, I would imagine. If he loses, which I don't think I think his ego tells him that there's no way he's ever going to lose. But if he loses, if some people may be saying to him, listen, plan B may be that you're going to lose, well, then he's going to mark his territory, quite frankly, and put in somebody, that he wants in there. If he wins, hello, he's got somebody in there that he wants. So it's a win-win for him. It doesn't matter. It's either his last hurrah or it says, let's continue doing the Trump way of doing things.
Fair enough. And well, speaking of Trump, something exciting is happening tonight, which is the first presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It's happening at 9 o'clock, so make sure to tune in right after this show. I'm so excited for this debate. I'm excited and both terrified. What do you guys think? What emotions are brewing inside of you? Christina?
I'm also just so excited to see what it is that, the arguments on both sides. I think it's going to be pretty entertaining if it's anything like Trump and Hillary's debates. I'm just excited and I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody really has to say.
Elvira?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you use the word, Christina, entertaining, because the last thing I would ever want a political debate to be is entertaining. I would hope that it would be educational, it would be maybe eye-opening, and it would be perhaps maybe policy-based rather than, entertainment or comical or anything like that. I mean, listen, I have very strong views of the U.S. Sort of the way their platform right now. And if Joe Biden, and I take I'm not an American, I don't get to vote, so it doesn't really matter what I have to say, but if I'm asked, I'll say it. If Joe Biden and Donald Trump are if that is the quality of, if that's the quality of politics in the U.S. right now. And I'm not talking, I don't want anybody calling or responding saying, well, what about Canada? We're not talking about Canada right now. We can have a whole discussion about that. But if those two are the creme de la creme, U.S. is in trouble.
And I think the reason I say entertaining is because it's Trump.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And there's never,
Sure.
I don't think I've ever heard him speak and there hasn't been something funny that comes out of it. Or not even funny, but
No,
just
pathetic.
I find him to be very pathetic, and there's always going to be something he says no matter what, he's going to say something that's inappropriate, incorrect.
I think that's what his supporters are hoping for because, that's who he is, right?
But it's also purposely done. That's just the way he is. He is a shock. He has the shock DJ syndrome, which is like, he's a reality actor. He's a reality show guy or ex-reality show guy. But I think he still thinks he's in a reality show. And it's the shock factor, right? It's the tune-in factor. What can I say? What can I do? And how do you hook that next audience to him? I don't know how much respect he has for democracy because, quite frankly, this guy is just it really is all about him. He's very narcissistic. He says it's about the American public. I can sit here and again debate it all that you want, but I don't know. I'm interested to see maybe Jerome, like what would you think how would you see it?
Well, the thing is like that the things that you hate about Donald Trump are the exact same things that like his base love about him.
Of course.
I honestly think he's gonna wipe the floor with Joe Biden. Honestly, I don't think like the two hamsters in Joe Biden's brain right now. It's like
Wow.
Like the Biden team, they're asking for 2 breaks every 30 minutes. You're telling me you can't stick to your key points without a teleprompter for 30 minutes? Come on.
Is that what they're asking?
That's what they're asking for. And like they have refused to clarify that he will not be wearing an earpiece. Biden is never good without a teleprompter. So like I don't know. I think looking back at Trump's debates, hate him or love him, he's a pretty good debater.
Yeah.
He is vicious. He's a predator when it comes to the debate platform. He did the same thing to Hillary. This is a man who came in as the 8th candidate of the Republican convention and wiped the floor with over 180 years of political know-how and talent, wiped the floor with them to come out the victor.
Yeah.
Whereas Joe Biden was polling 5th after the first 2 debates.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree that from a debate perspective, definitely Donald Trump is going to win this one. Only because he's seasoned, and to your point, he's on stage. And the minute you give Donald Trump a stage and a platform,
He's going to make full use of it.
Well, yeah, he'll shine. He'll shine, whether it's whether it's narcissistic or not, he's still going to shine. I do agree with that.
It's just his tactics, though. Like he is relentless. He uses all the rhetorical devices.
Yes.
He will catch you you're in gotcha moments. He'll use rhetorical traps, and I just don't think Biden is quick on his feet enough to not fall in those traps.
Well, I think he uses rhetorical traps simply because I actually don't think he has a very diverse.
Oh, no.
I don't think that he has the English language down to a couple of little sentences.
Yeah,
and
it's very
catchphrases.
jingoistic, but at the end of the day, when you talk to debate strategists, like I remember I was on both sides when it came to the last federal debate. I read Justin Trudeau's briefing notes and I read Andrew Scheer's briefing notes, and the key point that they were stressing Justin Trudeau, it's not what you say, but actually how much you say it. And Donald Trump will use the same word 8 times in a sentence.
Right.
But that repetition really connects. It really emphasizes the points. And he's a one-man band. He's a walking commotion. And
Sure.
his base likes it. It works.
I think he's going to get in again. That's just my prediction. It doesn't mean that that's what I
the
personally
polls,
would
though,
want.
the polls are.
Well, you can never trust polls because
No,
just look
exactly.
at what happened at the previous election, right? You can never ever trust polls. But let's move on to what's going on in our country, which is the fact that we had a speech from the throne, and there's no election because the Liberals and NDP have come to a decision, have come to an agreement. Is that a good thing? Is that a good thing that we avoided an election in the middle of coronavirus, or are you guys not happy with the Trudeau government and want to see either Conservatives or NDP take their place?
I would. I mean, it's hard for me because I, once upon a time, was a huge supporter of the NDP, which I not so much anymore. I have become a bit more liberal in recent years, but I can't say I would be happy with a conservative government, so I don't want that. But I'm also not happy with the Trudeau government, so it puts me in a bit of a hard place because I'm not really happy with any of the options. And I think that you could look at it in one of two ways, that this was maybe a really important time to have an election because of everything that's going on. But then at the same time, you can argue this is the worst time to do it because there's a pandemic going on. So, I mean, it just depends on how you look at it. I think probably in terms of public safety and just the state of our country right now, maybe it's a good idea that we hold off on an election. But I can see the argument for why right now, with everything going on, people may be looking for something new.
Elvira?
I am completely opposite. I disagree 100%.
Why?
It would be inappropriate. It would be, I actually think, irresponsible of us to have an election right now during COVID. I mean, not during COVID, but it's not necessary. Is my point? Is like, we're not in a. It didn't just happen to fall. If it happened to fall during that time period, like the U.S. right now, then I say okay, fine. But I don't think it's necessary. I think from an analyst perspective, the Trudeau government did everything that they needed to do, and they did it right in order to get the confidence of the NDP. I mean, so that you wouldn't have the fallout. They talked key phrasing. They used key components of like daycare, the continuation of CERB, the reinforcing the testing, the government said all the right things, creating a new Canadian disability benefit. Again, it was very people purpose. And so I think that that's what the NDP was doing. And I mean, I at that point, I think what the Trudeau government did, is they were wooing the NDP. They had zero interest in trying to talk to the Canadians in general, the voters. It was, we need the votes of, or we need the approval of the NDP. And they did it. And that's why we don't have an election.
Yeah, no, that's I agree with you completely. My argument is that I think it's a good thing that we don't have one right now with the pandemic, and this is a public health crisis, but I can see why there may be some opposition to not having an election, but I totally agree that this is not the right time to do it.
And especially with the Conservative Party just getting back on its feet,
Right.
It would allow, if an election happened now, I think the NDP would have done very well, because nobody wants Trudeau. The Conservatives are in shambles.
I agree.
And
so if I'm sitting as a Conservative right now, who's Aaron O'Toole? Like if it was me running the Conservative, side of things, I would say, guys, we're not ready. Like the country needs to get to know Aaron O'Toole. And until then, Elliot, you banged it right on. It would be really an election of NDP versus Liberal, and they're just too close to really say, where's the real change going to be? And I actually do not think that from a countrywide perspective, we're not ready for an NDP government. Yeah, that's what I mean. So it would be a Liberal government again, in my opinion. And I don't think that would be faring well for the Conservatives. They need the time.
Yeah.
They need the time.
Definitely. I guess we can all kind of agree that it's a good thing that there's an election. There's no election happening, but I guess we can expect it next fall, most likely. After another year of Trudeau in office, we'll see if the NDP is still happy, and
Yeah.
You know,
Well, again, it's all about it's a guessing game. Some people say it'll be in
Right.
the spring. It's not going to be in the spring. There's nothing that's going to change between now and March that there's going to equate a justification for election. There's just no way. Fall would be the earliest, I would think.
yeah.
No, Jerome, you disagree?
I disagree with. First
Why?
of all, we shouldn't have had a throne speech. There was absolutely no reason to prorogue Parliament apart from the fact that the House was falling down in Ottawa on Justin Trudeau's government. If you notice that they've gone up 5 points in the polls on aggregate since the what you call it since committees have been shut down. That was a very strategic move. But I mean, I'm glad there's not an election from a conservative point of view. 54% of Canadians on both sides don't know who Aaron O'Toole is, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a horrible
Yeah.
idea. I think
Yeah.
Jagmeet Singh's power play is actually detrimental to the NDP because, like, if you look back at like hardcore NDPers, like let Charlie Angus for sure, like when like he wouldn't support this move because it cuts into the NDP base and you're losing those people to liberals,
Right.
which is not what they want.
Right.
Yeah, and everybody wants to keep their supporters, right? So let's move on now to our main topic for this week, which is Coronavirus Part 2. Back in January, the Raben Report's Season 8 premiere discussed the coronavirus. Back then, Canada was only reporting 2 to 5 cases a day. At the height of the pandemic in March and April, Ontario alone hit over 400 cases daily. Now, 9 months later, the economy has steadily reopened and people have been trying to get back into their routines. However, a recent spike in cases, including the highest case count since the start of the pandemic being reported just yesterday, 700, has made us reopen the conversation. As such, Coronavirus Part 2 was born. On today's show, we take a retrospective look at the evolution of this worldwide pandemic, as well as what position we're in now. And finally, what the future holds. As a reminder, we are live on Facebook, so make sure to comment on our feed to have your thoughts read live on air. So let's start with from March to the present. Has your opinion on the virus changed from January? Christina?
Definitely. So I was at the beginning of this all, and I think this is not necessarily a fault of my own or anybody else who might have agreed with me, was just we didn't have enough information. And I was one of those people who at the beginning was, I thought that it was annoying that everybody had masks on. I thought, the government was, or the health officials were saying, hey, stop selling Shoppers Drug Mart out of their masks. You don't need masks. Masks don't fully protect you. Now we have a mask mandate, which is the polar opposite of what we were being told in January. So my opinion has definitely changed. I think everybody can agree that at the beginning, maybe they didn't take it as seriously as they do now. So definitely my opinion has changed in terms of seeing this more seriously and, just basically taking it more seriously than I did back when it all kind of started.
Mm-hmm. Elvira?
I'm opposite. I'm starting to see a pattern here. I'm actually, I took it extremely seriously in right at the very beginning, right on the onset, and I still take it extremely serious. I don't think that we are in a position, and I think that we're so arrogant sometimes as human beings. I am not an expert. I'm not a medical expert. We can have all the discussions in the world, and it can last for a lifetime about conspiracies and all that other lovely stuff. At the end of the day, I'm not prepared. I am not prepared to play Russian roulette with anybody that I love with their lives. So if I'm being told, and you can call me a sheep and I'm just being flocked, that's fine. But if I'm being told by all levels of government across the globe to wear a damn mask, I'm going to wear a damn mask. And it's not to protect myself, it is to protect the people that I love. And so that's why I do it.
And speaking of wearing a mask, though, what did you think of Canada's response? Because at the beginning they said that masks don't do anything.
Listen, that was to protect, and I think that Dr. Tan has come out and said that in the beginning it was because they were short PPEs, and it needed to go into the. This is a fluid situation, and again. Could we, should we, shoulda, coulda, woulda? We didn't. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. We are where we are. I'm actually, as a Canadian, I am so extremely proud to be Canadian. I think that we've taken an extreme precautionary approach to the way this pandemic is playing out. And I applaud every single level of government that does that. I don't think that we should be any political party right now. I think, I sound like a politician, but it's Team Canada and Team Canada only. Let's get through this. There'll be time to debate, and there will be time to, look back. Why wouldn't there be? Well, why? We don't live in a communist country.
Just yesterday, the Liberals shut down the debate for the coronavirus relief bill.
What does that mean?
They stopped the debate. They rushed through the legislation without debating it, without putting it to second reading or third reading. So there technically won't be any time to debate. I think.
But what is it that you're debating?
The measures of the bill.
What bill? Let's talk about the bill. What aspects of the bill?
Well, the new relief legislation.
The economic side of it. But is that what you're talking about? The economic side?
Not only the economic side, but I just believe in a liberal democracy. We have to have debate. I think it strengthens our democracy.
Agree.
I think the liberals shouldn't have just a blank check and uncontrolled powers in parliament. I think parliamentarians should do the job that they are so highly paid to do, which means scrutinizing bills and, improving legislation. I think that legislation is improved through debate and scrutiny.
So what happened?
Yeah, and the government,
They
the
shut
Liberals,
down debate.
they shut down debate for quite a while. They prorogued Parliament,
Yeah.
especially when they had the WE scandal, and they said, no, we're not talking about this right now. And they moved the conversation to the coronavirus, but then they won't have the debate on the coronavirus either. And that's what you're worried about.
Yeah, it is worrying. It's like a dictatorship. I don't think the government managed coronavirus well. I would give them a D minus.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad. The U.S. shut their borders mid-February. You know what we were doing mid-February? Justin Trudeau was telling us to not be racist. He was saying, no, there is no risk of human-to-human transmission. There's too much anti-Chinese racism, and you should all grow up.
And that goes to the initial response.
2 weeks later, we full reverse. If the Canadian public had brake pads, they'd be worn out because we've been switching the transmission.
And what's interesting though is that Canada and the U.S. have switched their policies right from the beginning to now. So back then, Trudeau was saying, no, we're okay, don't worry, go to Chinatown. And Trump was saying, close the borders, nobody get in, nobody get out, done.
And they called him racist.
And they called him racist. Then things
That's because he talks like a racist. There's a way of saying something. The
But
way
his
the way he says
argument,
it's a
though-
Chinese. It's a Chinese.
Chinese.
It's a
Chinese.
Yeah.
China.
It's
China.
a China. It's
China
only in
virus.
China. Well, are you
You put your lips together when you say it.
Guys, I'm sorry. This is a leader of not only the United States of America, but he's a global, the superpower. Apparently, the U.S. is the superpower. You do not speak like that.
But his argument, though.
His argument? What about his argument that it was a Chinese? How come
closing the borders was the right thing to do at that time?
Well, how has that helped him?
The problem is that
Because
he's reversed his policy, and now
they
he's having rallies, which is the worst thing you can be doing. You're bringing so many people together, and they're telling, and him and his campaign are telling people don't wear masks. Why?
But that's my point. What has changed from February when he closed down? And by the way, I agree, Jerome, that he was quicker at the reaction, if you will, and I agreed with that. But what did he do? What has changed from late February to now that he all of a sudden doesn't think that this.
He listened to February 12 Justin Trudeau.
Oh my goodness.
And then February 14 Justin Trudeau. And then they switched. They were just like, oh, you're doing that? I'm doing this. Oh, by all means.
Oh my
Well,
goodness
you know,
gracious.
clearly he's tried to, change everything that's going on. It's an absolute mess. Realistically, no matter what's going on, I think you're right. He was quicker to react, and he was called racist, and Trudeau was slower to react, but then the tides turned completely, and now we're in a much better position than the States, and life is a little better here. And speaking of life, how has your personal lifestyle changed since the coronavirus started? Elvira, let's start with you.
Me, I'm just, I have to tell you something. My life is busy. As you know, I do a lot of radio stuff, but I also, from an economics perspective, my life changed completely because I got paid for doing a lot of social events. And so, 80% of my income was gone. But what I did not appreciate, obviously, you roll with the punches. What I did love, and what I think in the beginning, what it did to a lot of people, a lot of families, is it just kind of got us to reset and say, slow it down. How many pair of shoes do I need really in the end, and how many times do I have to eat out? And it just kind of brought us back. You guys aren't old enough to know. There was a time when Sundays were closed. Retail stores were closed, right?
Preach, sister.
No. What I mean is it was a beautiful thing. It really did bring a lot of the family unit together. And I think that we have forgotten that, or our lives are busy.
I agree.
So what it did is it forced me, and Elliot, you know me, my life was really busy. And I call it the bunker. Don't laugh, but I really enjoyed the bunker time period. It was kind of like I shut myself down.
You were on a cloud.
Because you do know me. I was like, guys, I can go another month. I can go another 2 months. I can go. And I'm going to be honest with you. If they had to shut us down right now, I would be, without a shadow of a doubt, I would be okay with it.
Really?
Yeah, I would. Again, I would. Yeah.
I think I'd be okay with another shutdown too, when you take into consideration that it's about people's lives, right?
Yeah.
I think if us going back into another lockdown stops the spread of this thing and therefore saves lives, put us in another lockdown, because is it really worth it to continue for people to continue to get sick, for these numbers to to continue to grow? Is it that important for the economy? I mean, obviously, yes, it is. We need the economy open for all sorts of reasons, but does that trump human lives and putting a strain on our healthcare system too? That is already an overburdened healthcare system.
And it's interesting you bring up a second lockdown, because that's where we were going next, which is the present situation in the second wave. Speaking of second lockdowns, you look at Israel is one of the first countries to have gone into a second lockdown, and people are furious. People are protesting. They can't leave their house about maybe 1 or 5 kilometers away. Are we going to go into a second lockdown? Are we in a second wave right now?
We're definitely in a second wave. What was it yesterday? The numbers were 700, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the highest they've ever been in a single day. And half of those being from Toronto. Of course, we're in a second wave. If the numbers are higher than they were during the first wave, we're in a second wave. And I don't know how soon a second lockdown is going to happen. I would assume soon if you look at these numbers, but then at the same time it's kind of unpredictable. We might not even be put into a second lockdown because the government might be more concerned about the economy.
I don't think we should go into another lockdown, to be completely honest.
I don't think it's going to be necessary, actually.
I don't think so either. Yesterday, yes, we did see over 700 cases, but we have to take into consideration that there were, I believe, 25,000 tests that were cleared from the previous backlog because the system was down. Exactly. So today we're back at 39,000 tests, 534 cases. And like I quit my job because of coronavirus. Like I worked in healthcare for 4 years, and I saw this thing and I said I can't put my family through this.
Yeah, you worked in a pharmacy.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I was a pharmacy technician. I saw
Wow.
this coming. I was like, yeet. So, like, the thing is, especially with the testing, we haven't even approved. The federal government just bought over 9 million boxes of the new testing. It's still not approved by Health Canada.
The fast tracking. Yeah,
Yeah.
the fast one. Yep.
That would completely be a game changer.
Right.
But we don't. It's not approved yet. So
Just
we
to-
don't really know where we are, though.
Just to interrupt quickly, Sam commented. He said Quebec is going into lockdown for the month of October. The only things that are staying open are schools and essentials. And he says, well, at least
Interesting.
in Greater Montreal and Quebec City.
Sacre bleu.
And also, I believe Kobe said we were never even in a lockdown. If you compare us to other countries, we were never truly in a lockdown,
Exactly.
which I agree with. I mean, I have the majority of my Chilean family is in Chile, and they have like seriously strict lockdown rules. They were only certain people were allowed to leave. Like I had one relative who basically had to do the errands for a bunch of them because he was the only one that was actually allowed out of the house. The other ones weren't even allowed out of the house to get essentials. Like these lockdowns are serious in other countries.
And in terms of lockdowns in other countries, you look at Switzerland, which didn't have a lockdown, and they just let the virus go on, and it seems like they had the same result as if they went into a lockdown.
Was it Switzerland or was it Sweden?
I think it was Switzerland, but it might be Sweden.
I think it was.
No,
Was one of the Norwegian countries.
Yeah. And
Sweet.
they didn't go into
What
a
does that
lockdown.
mean? What does that mean?
They
What-
just
what-
They
what-
just may the strongest immune system win.
yeah,
Okay.
it's true.
Okay.
That's
I
what
think
they're
it
doing
actually.
with
I think that
kids in
was Sweden.
school right now.
Yeah.
They're just
Kids
seeing
have
who's
very
gonna.
strong immune
They
systems.
do have strong immune systems, but this is an illness that can ruin.
Disproportionately doesn't affect children.
It doesn't. Sure, it doesn't. Maybe they don't get as sick from it, and they aren't dying from it. But there's evidence that these kids are going to now live with permanent damage for the rest of their lives.
If
You
they
know-
don't go
that-
back to school.
No, permanent damage in terms of health problems.
Yeah, you know, I have a friend who actually just did an interview on Global that she had COVID, and she's my age, perfectly healthy, my program, and now she's a long hauler as they call it. She has you know, long-lasting conditions.
Adverse effects. Yeah.
Yeah. So was reopening schools the right call? Was it the
No.
wrong call?
Wrong call. I look. I
What
get
was
it.
what was the alternative? Because online
Well,
learning was
obviously online. I can't really give you a perfect other option. I'm also speaking from the perspective of being the daughter of a teacher and seeing firsthand. You know, she'll send me pictures of her classrooms where kids are only a meter apart. They're not 2 meters apart. Kids also are irresponsible, obviously. They don't understand the concept of a pandemic. They don't understand the concept of a mask. You can tell them to put a mask on, but they're going to play with it. They're going to have dirty hands. They're going to be touching their face. They're going to be moving it around. My mom even told me one funny story of kids hitting each other with their masks. It's now turned into a game,
wow.
right? So maybe I can see how maybe higher up, like grades where you actually have a grasp on what's going on, those students are maybe in a better position to re-enter school.
well, those are the ones that are actually at home learning. They sent the
Yeah.
younger ones to school.
Right.
Which to me is irresponsible because kids are irresponsible. I think that education is the most important thing. One of the most important things in the world. We need education. That's how young people become the people that they become. And we need education. It's very important. But is it so damaging to put a delay on that or to make them learn online? Is that the worst thing that we could ever do to them if it means that they aren't then going to go home to their family of 3 generations and they give COVID to their grandparents. Because sure, kids may not be getting sick, but they live in homes with people who who can get sick. They live in homes with people who will die if they get COVID.
But you know what's interesting? When online learning was a topic with the teachers' unions, they were completely against it, and online learning was not possible. It shouldn't be mandatory. And I remember having that discussion on the show because I had to do an online class because I did poorly in a class at school. The one class that was mandatory for admission to university, English, and I did it through online school. There was 3 in-person sessions with the exams and all. But yeah, the teachers' unions were saying that no way, Jose, we're not doing online classes. And now it seems like they're all okay with it.
Well, I don't know if they're okay with it, but like this is the 21st century after all, folks.
I agree.
And it's time to start, if you can run a global corporation online through Zoom corporate meetings, you can damn well try and teach a child or a classroom. This isn't about teachers and any of that. What we have to do.
Do they know that?
Well, they don't, and that's the problem. Exactly, it is not. What the question posed is did we send them to school too early? But statistically, these high numbers, 700, they're not coming from children. They're coming from adults. They're coming from irresponsible adults, young adults. Quite frankly, I mean, if we're really going to hone in on the
It's the millennials. But hey, you know what? We sometimes we're at a weird age, like generation, where we can claim to either be Gen Zers or millennials.
Yeah, you're on the border.
We're on the cusp. So maybe I won't be a millennial.
I don't even
right
identify
now.
with people my own age, to be honest.
I'm with you there.
You do or you don't?
I
You
don't.
don't. No, my
Like,
son is the same way. My son doesn't identify with his generation, which I believe is your generation.
I'm the same way. I don't really identify with our generation. I think there are a lot of issues with our generation. I honestly hate it in many respects, hence why my favorite artist is Celine Dion. Ha, you didn't think I'd bring Celine Dion into the
Here we go.
into the
Started
premiere,
it
but
already.
Someone take a shot every time he says Celine Dion.
Somebody, oh God, I'd be
Yeah.
drunk.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
well, here I did it. I did it.
Yeah, there you go.
So in terms of getting groups of people together, clearly opening schools, according to everybody, was the wrong choice.
No, I'm going to
Except-
disagree.
You're for opening schools?
I'm for
Why
opening
not?
schools.
You're
too.
for opening schools.
Right, Jerome?
Democracy.
It's not about democracy. It's about
I just mean the 2-on-1.
Okay. I think it was okay to open schools. Now, would I have done a rolling kind of school format? Would I have incorporated, both online and you have to understand that there has to be a mental health and social aspect to all of this.
Exactly.
And I think that especially with children, I mean,
According
Christina-
to sick kids, it would have been irreversible psychological behavioral
Yeah.
Well,
damage.
I have
Yeah.
personally seen the things that this pandemic has done to people's mental health. This is an awful thing for people
Yes.
to experience.
Yes.
The social isolation is causing, like you said, irreversible psychological effects. And kids, they need social interaction in order to be healthy. But the only thing that scares me is, yes, that's what kids need, but what happens when they interact with one another or they interact with another adult at school, then catch the virus and take that virus home to their grandparents who will die if they get COVID.
but that's a
Now,
lot of
I mean,
ifs.
in
it is
most-
a lot of
ifs.
it is a lot of ifs, but do we risk
in most schools, their
people's
teachers
lives?
to
Well, now here's the thing. You mentioned a keyword, which was bringing people together. Keywords rather. In that case, there are a lot of protests going on right now, which is also bringing people together,
Yeah.
including, and this is both protests for BLM as well as the anti-lockdown protests. Now, both sides will hate on one protest and support the other.
Yep.
Should we be having protests? All protests or no protests?
absolutely not.
No protests?
It's so
But how can you be how can you be for no protests but reopening schools? You're still bringing people together.
So the thing is, a protest is not an organized gathering of people. A school in theory, should
Thank
be an
you.
organized gathering of people
Yeah.
where you're under the supervision.
Controlled.
Yeah,
Controlled.
you should have control. I would assume teachers have control of
Yeah.
their classrooms. A protest, here's the thing with the protest. There is a communicable disease going around that people are saying disproportionately affects black people. So what should black people be doing now? Gathering together in groups. That makes complete sense.
Doesn't it, though?
I mean, most of these people aren't registered to vote. Most of these people don't know their... You can't complain about a system if you don't know how the system works. You don't know your senator. You don't know your regional representative. You don't know your mayor. Even the NBA. Like, all these NBA teams protested, or claimed they protested, yet a study in the NBA showed that 80% of them weren't even registered to vote.
Wow. What?
Yeah, 80% of them.
What do you
On
mean
top-
not registered to vote?
They weren't registered. If
Right.
the vote was held tomorrow, 80%
Right.
of the NBA players could
Didn't
not vote.
qualify.
Nope. Have no
Why?
clue.
Why is that?
They
Why?
got money.
You mean why is what?
Why weren't 80% of them registered?
Who
They
knows?
chose not to.
I'm taking a knee is easier.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna take this knee, but you gonna pay me, right? I'm still getting that check, right?
Yeah.
Christina,
Jerome, you freak me out right
Christina,
now.
you look like you're holding a lot in. Please,
I'm not
unleash.
holding a lot in. It just I feel like I don't know. I don't necessarily, obviously during a pandemic, collecting in groups is exactly what we're told not to do, but then at the same time I'm conflicted because I don't feel like I'm in a position to tell people not, like, I don't think that I have the right to say that these BLM protests are wrong. This isn't something that, sure, it affects me in terms of the greater public's health, but is it my responsibility to tell people that they shouldn't protest something that's, when you really think about it, racial injustice, police brutality in itself is a pandemic. We're losing how many black lives to police officers and racist white people in society who take it upon themselves to deal with black people. And do I have the right to tell them that they shouldn't protest that? I know that there's a pandemic going on, but is there not a pandemic in itself with the racial injustice? I don't know. Like, I don't know if I myself can come to a conclusion about that, because I just don't think that it's my place to decide or to...
So would you say the same for the anti-lockdown protests?
Well, anti-lockdown, there's a big difference between...
How?
There's a big difference when you're protesting lives and police brutality
But
and
my
injustice, but coronavirus, you don't... Okay, good. Yes, it's a fair point. Like, if we let BLM protest, should we then let anti-maskers or anti-lockdown people protest? I guess, technically speaking, yes, because they have the right to speak on the issue if that's something that they feel is an issue. But I feel like there's a bit of a difference between debating public health versus racial injustice. I mean, I think that the topics are a bit different, and
But you're still look, you're still collecting. It's still a
You
collection
gotta
of
check your
people.
transmission, because you just did like a full 180.
well, okay, well, this is exactly why I'm stumbling on my words. I'm saying that, technically speaking.
Can you protest in a school?
What do you mean?
What would you be protesting?
If the kids all learned and they had up like signs, would that be okay? But we taught them math at the same time.
But I don't see the connection.
plus one.
But I don't see
One
the
plus
connection
one.
between kids going to school with signs saying 1 plus 1
equals
I don't
2.
see the correlation between that and
You're right, because
Black
there's a teacher
lives.
in a protest. I remember
And also,
Teresa
why-
Tam
why
said,
is it,
"Go
though-
protest, but
one,
don't
one
shout."
at a time, Christina.
I'm just wondering why it is that anti-mask and anti-lockdown protesters aren't getting shot for peaceful protesting, and sometimes not peaceful protesting, but people at peaceful Black Lives Matters protests are. There is a difference. So yes, I'm gonna side more with the people on the BLM side, because there's clearly even with the way that they're handling these protests, there's a difference. Like, people are protesting peacefully for BLM and still getting shot with tear gas, but that's not in the States.
Okay, well,
What specific instance?
Okay, so let me pull up a case. You can come back to me, but there have been peaceful protests where people are being treated unfairly, and that is not the way that they're being treated at these anti-lockdown protests.
okay, but this is the this is the U.S. I mean, we can have a whole different discussion about the difference between Canada and the U.S. and oppression and isolation and history. And the question posed was very simple: should we be allowing these protests to happen? And my answer, it's a yes or no answer. It's a yes or no. The answer is no. And you can't be, like law is absolute, right? So it's either yes or it's no. You cannot say, no, but if it's for BLM, sure, let's do it.
I'm not saying that. I've just gone back and I'm not saying that it should only be for BLM. I went back on my words. I'm saying, look, if we're going to let BLM do it, then yeah, we have to let the other protesters do it too. Or we say no to all of them. I just mean that I'm not myself in a position to tell Black people how to react to something that affects them and not me.
Agreed.
It's not just Black people protesting at BLM.
That's the thing.
Well, of course,
it's not just, but also you have to take this into account, because sure, you can't tell the protesters how to feel, but at the same time, the government is telling everybody stay home.
And feel great about it.
Yeah, I don't know
heroes.
about that. So my thing is that I think what's happening, Christina, and I'm not putting words or any thoughts into your mind. I think we're careful. It's a sensitive subject matter, and I think that I think there's a difference between supporting the cause versus what's being done right now, right this second. I will be the first in line for any BLM when we all have the equal freedom to go out and hug and kiss and show peace and love, because really that's what it is. I mean, it's
some of the times,
most of the time. Until then, if my country is being mandated, for the most part, that I'm in a pandemic, I'm staying home, or I'm staying within the parameters of that.
You're following the law, basically.
I'm following the law.
Just to go back to what I was saying, so here's just an example. This is one example. There have been more. I have seen more. So this is back in end of May, beginning of June. So the plaza between St. John's Church and Lafayette Park was full of people non-violently protesting police brutality late Monday afternoon, when U.S. Park Police and National Guard troops, with the use of tear gas, suddenly started pushing them away for no apparent reason. Then eventually the reason became clear. President Trump wanted to walk from the White House through the park to the, sorry, my brightness is low, Episcopal Church.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I have no idea. So there's just one example. Trump wanted to go walk from one place to another through nonviolent protesters. Those protesters were tear gassed. They were not being violent. They were peacefully protesting. That's just one example.
Were they on public or private property?
It shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter either way.
It shouldn't matter.
Technically, you can't protest on private property.
I know, but it shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter. Why do you tear gas people who...
Yeah.
You know, I don't see that there being a reason to tear gas somebody, even if they were on private property.
But that's not answering Elliot's initial question, which
this was just me going back to I had mentioned that there were peaceful protesters who were being hurt. That's just an example of one.
Sure. I agree, 100%. I mean, nobody should ever have to experience that. Nobody. I don't care,
Agreed.
What skin color you are, what demographic you are, what gender you are. It's despicable behavior. It is very American policing. I'm sorry, go and bash me on Facebook. I don't care two craps about it. It is very typical American, but the question was very simply posed. It was a yes or no. The answer should have been yes or no. And the question was, should we be allowing protesting going on right now where there is protesting, you're not going to have 5 of your closest friends and family in your social circle protesting. There's going to be groups and groups and groups of people protesting, strangers, and they're standing by each other, and it's irrelevant. We have, as much as it hurts me to say this, the cause should be irrelevant. The question is, do we put a whole bunch of gathering of people in on the streets or in a room and protest? And the answer to me is no.
And you mentioned one thing, and that's where we're going to go. You mentioned that you'll be first in line when everything is over, the protests are over. You're going to be first in line for that, which takes us to the future of the pandemic. Will 2021 be the end of COVID-19? Because you see all these memes, you see everybody posting, "Oh, I just can't wait till December 31st, 2020, January 1st, 2021," and magically the pandemic is over?
I'm going to tell you something. Cancer doesn't have an expiry date. Okay? No illness, no disease has expiry dates. Now, you can argue with me by saying, what are you talking about? The measles, are we going to be able to manage it? COVID is here. It's here in all its formats, and I'm sure in 100 more years, 20 more years, 50 more years. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher, nor am I in the medical field. It's another form of it may appear again, but that isn't the question. The issue is very simple. How can some fool sit there and say, "Oh, it's December 31st, 2021. COVID's over, guys. Let's go party"? No, it's our lack of patience that dictates this is going to be, maybe psychologically, this is going to be my expiry date. I'm done. And if this thing is still going on, I'm going out. No, you're going to stay where you are to stay until it is safe to do so.
And you don't think that we're going to have to go into a second lockdown for the future?
But guys, I'm not if it's a fluid situation, if the medical field can't answer it, who the heck am I, completely medically uneducated, to answer that? I don't know.
Well, the medical field also told us in the beginning that masks don't do anything.
But you know why they did it. They did it because there was a shortage. Dr. Theresa Tam actually, she actually came out and said, "Well, we kind of." I'm not saying it was right. Please do not get me. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But it was definitely a ploy, or it was a purpose why they said it that way. Now, I have to tell you, I bought a whole bunch of masks, and now all of a sudden they're fashion, like they're fashionable.
Yeah.
Like, come on, just wear a mask, and if you don't want to wear a mask, then keep your distance, your social distance, or physical distance, not social distance. Keep your physical distance, and there is no expiry date. Who are we to say that on this day it's going to be okay to go out and party and make out in the in the corner of the back seat of like at a nightclub? You just met some guy. I'm just saying. Maybe that was my life.
Is that what you think millennials do just all day, all night?
We just make out in cars. That's all we do.
Excuse me, I was talking about my generation. That's what I used to do.
Wow.
I don't know what your generation does.
We don't do much. Yeah, we TikTok.
TikTok, I know. Yeah, you text each other dating. I don't even, that's so far from my scope of understanding. But anyway.
But speaking of the spread and the future and what can we do to stop the spread, though? We're wearing the masks. Toronto just said to stay within your family bubbles. Thank God we're in Vaughan. So what else can we do, really? Because they've reopened schools. Protests are happening. We're wearing our masks as much as we can. Better than the States, 100%. Yeah. But what else can we do?
Well, we can't be opening strip clubs, and then one person has equated to 17. They showed the charting of how that happens, and you can't be having underground parties and.
When you say they showed a chart of how it happens, what do you mean how it happens?
Like the
That's-
No,
strip
no, 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 not the strip club. Oh my goodness gracious.
How strip clubs work?
How that one person carrying it was here
it
and
to
then they
this
brought it home.
person.
Yeah, it's the I don't know if you guys are too old or too young. So I hope there's more than I hope a couple of people of my generation are watching. There was a commercial where it used to say, "And you tell two friends," and so on and so on.
Yeah.
It's the old hair.
Yeah.
I think it was Herbal Essence. I can't remember. But either way, that's the concept. The concept is that you carry it, you're bringing it home, and that person carried it, and so on and so on, and that's how the spread happens. So what you do is you avoid certain things where your inhibitions are down. This is all about inhibitions and how you stop. That's how you stop the spread. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Christina?
Well, I just think that the fact that they even decided to open strip
Yeah.
clubs, nightclubs, bars, the inside of restaurants, these are hot spots for germs, even if you're disinfecting the place. A strip club, I can promise you that nobody in a strip club is wearing a mask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a strip club is a hotspot in two senses.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But
They're also not wearing other protection either.
Right.
Oh
Right.
my
So-
god.
Really? Would
Right.
you like to elaborate?
No, I don't know, but oops.
I just I don't
good.
I don't think that like that was there was no reason to start to open things like that when like sure you can pretend to ensure that you're doing all the proper cleaning and disinfectant protocols, but no, you aren't. And if you're at a strip club where people are touching, there's germs, there's all kinds of body fluids.
Yeah.
There is absolutely
It's inhibition.
there's no reason to have somewhere like a strip club, nightclub, bar, inside a restaurant, whatever. There's no reason to open those things.
Do you agree? But
I've
do you
never been
also
to a strip club.
But do you also suggest? We're going to get back to that, Jerome. I don't
Oh
buy
my
that for a minute. Are you suggesting like a going out for dining? The restaurant industry is dying a very fast death, and we need to support them.
Well, of course, I think that's also
There's a very big difference between just dining.
and going to a strip club and
No, not strip club.
Okay,
But even like
Right.
Hopefully there's a
dancing
difference.
and stuff afterward. Yeah, no,
I
no,
don't
of course
see much.
there is.
Just kidding.
Oh Lord.
Who goes dining anymore?
No, but you know what I mean. Like to go out and support a restaurant.
No,
and,
totally. And I
Yeah.
think there's been some great initiatives like Uber and whatnot promoting takeout and
Sure.
offering free delivery on small businesses.
You mean capitalizing on
Sure,
the
that
situation
you
to
could look.
raise
You
profit?
could. You know what? You can look at it that way, and that may very well be what it is. But that I'm sure has been helping businesses keep afloat. Yes, they need our business, but I mean, strippers who are sex workers who have
Yep.
just as many rights as any other worker, they also technically need our business, not us specifically, but they do need business from other people
Also
to
need
stay
to pay
afloat.
taxes.
So
Uh-huh.
sure, but there's that's another topic. But
Yeah.
And and none of you mentioned one of the ways that we're trying to prevent the virus, and I'm actually very surprised that nobody mentioned it. So, will any of you be downloading the Canada COVID app?
I have it.
You have
The
it.
alert app?
have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
Oh,
it.
you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's two out of three. Elvira,
No.
no.
Do you want me to put it on?
Yeah.
Okay. we
I,
can do that
like,
after.
are you? Oh, sorry. Are you asking because maybe is there a conspiracy thinking that
Well-
there's
well, will you-
personal information?
It's
Or?
That's where I was
Bluetooth.
going because that is
okay.
one of the ways that the government is trying to prevent the virus from spreading by letting you know if you've been exposed
Yeah.
to someone that had coronavirus. And many people are saying, yes, this is great. On the other side, people are saying, no, they're getting too much.
invasion
It's
of
an invasion of
privacy.
privacy. So, what do you think?
I don't. I think like I don't know if that's sure it's an important argument. I'm all for privacy. I'm anti Big Brother behavior. I don't like it, but there's a pandemic going on, and if we have the technology that allows us to trace it, we should be utilizing it. The only way that this app works is if everybody has it. So
That's what I was gonna ask. I was
yeah,
gonna
so
say,
it does serve some purpose, but that would only be if you were to have come in contact with somebody who had COVID, who also had the app and also reported that they had COVID on the app. So I got it because I want to be part of this move towards tracing and
You want to be traced?
not me personally, but I would like this disease to be like traceable, more traceable than it has been previously. I want us to be able to know where this virus is. I think it's great that I can open my phone and I can see if I was exposed
I
to
agree.
it. And on a personal level, I'm a very high risk. If I were to get COVID, I would most likely be in ICU, and it would not be a good situation for me. So I like to know that I've come in contact with it. If that were to ever happen, that would be something important for me to know. I have people in my life who are high risk who need to know. So sure, you can make an argument for privacy, but I think there's a more important thing at play here, and it's a virus that's killing many, many people.
Elvira, sorry, I just want to go to Elvira. Elvira,
No.
you said you wouldn't be downloading it. Why?
No, you asked me if I did download it. Of course
No, I
I can.
said,
I'm
will
gonna,
you be? Will
yeah,
you
I'm
be?
going to get Jerome to download it as soon as the show's over. 100%. No, I just haven't got around to it. But what I'm trying to understand is it's optional, right?
It is optional, but
Well,
it
then
makes
so what's
it
the
be.
problem?
Oh, you want to make it mandatory?
right?
I do.
No. What I'm saying
Oh.
is, what's the difference? I chose to download it, which equates to recognizing that I'm going to be giving information. How is that any different than me going
Having a
on Facebook?
page,
Exactly.
Yeah,
having
like
an
how,
Instagram
To
page,
talk about your privacy.
guys,
being
you know,
using
compromised.
internet.
yeah, but even the algorithm, I Googled something the other day, and all of a sudden, you think it's a coincidence, all of a sudden I'm seeing all these damn ads. But how is that any different? So to me, it's a choice. If I choose to download it, then I know I'm going to use the word consequences. There are, I'm using it loosely, but then I'm very well aware. And quite frankly, I agree wholeheartedly with Christina. There's people that are, you're going into a restaurant, they're using fake names. Like, because they don't want to give
Well, that's
their
what
name out.
happened
Like,
at,
are you
at a
stupid?
lot of these strip clubs.
Not just strip clubs,
Not
restaurants.
that, but restaurants too, because people are so concerned about their privacy that they're giving fake names, fake information,
Yeah.
because and then it therefore defeats the entire purpose.
Bingo.
One thing, if you make an app mandatory, you can't be giving a fake name. It's tracking you on your phone. I understand the privacy issue with it. I get it, but we're losing, so there's probably so many numbers that are not accounted for because people are going into places and giving fake information because they're so worried about their privacy more than they are the public's health.
So,
But you think it should be mandatory?
I think that the app,
Your
I think
app?
that we should all have the app, and that may be controversial, but the only way this
Interesting.
app works is if everybody has it. So by making it mandatory, it actually will reach its full potential.
And
But of course,
you're-
that's another
and
issue.
You're
And
asking for a charter challenge right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine, but this is public
but
health.
to play on Christina's side, you look at the Amber Alert app, and that's mandatory on all phones, on all televisions, and it clearly works. So maybe that is the right call.
That's what I mean. The Amber Alert thing is exactly what I was going to say next. Is we have that, and that's a successful. They've said all these alerts are some of the key reasons why we're finding missing children or
100%.
getting to the root of a child going missing. So if we can put that on our phones, why can't we put something on our phone regarding a pandemic? This is not just for the sake of getting our personal information and trying to have some kind of government hold over us. This is people's lives that are in danger. And I can say myself and family members included, I'm very high risk, and if I get COVID, I'm screwed. And people I love are completely screwed. So you know what? Yeah, maybe I'm a bit biased, but I think this app should be mandatory. It only works if we all have it anyways. So why not?
Interesting.
Very interesting. So When is this all going to be over? That's my
Oh,
final.
jeez, are we having this conversation
That's
again?
my final question
Pandemics
of the
do
night.
not end in a year,
Exactly.
so people who think December 31st, 2020 is the last day, God, no. We have at least another year of this. Maybe not to the extent that we're seeing it, but this illness is going to carry on. The spread isn't going to, we can't stop it suddenly. It's going to keep going for at least a little bit.
And we have to understand it more. So you
And
have to
yeah,
give the
that's the
medical
thing.
Vaccines
Right.
need like all there's all these things that need to be developed. There needs to be new plans put in place. We can't have that all by the end of this year. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
It's crazy.
The thing that I think everybody is forgetting is that a virus is a living organism. It's
Yes.
living. It knows us. It will adapt. It's a living, breathing thing. We can't expect governments or rules or legislation to end a virus. A virus will be ended when another organism, preferably us as humankind, we adapt to it. We change our behavior to how it's necessary. But the unsettling thing is that people get so caught up over partisanship, blaming governments, blaming
Exactly.
officials. It's individual personal responsibility that will change the tide of this virus. No government legislation will change this virus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
and that's where we're gonna end things tonight. That was our show for this week. Thank you to everybody that tuned in to our and messaged us during our season 9 premiere of the Raben Report. Elvira, thank you for being our first guest of the season.
Oh my God, I want to congratulate you guys. I already feel a lovely synergy here. It's going to be quite interesting, and I will be listening and watching as always.
And we'd love to have you back as
you.
well. Thank you to Christina and Jerome. You two are absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elliot.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Christina, for monitoring the Facebook comments. Jerome for handling the audio. I'm so lucky to be able to do what I do and to have the team that I have. Thank you to everybody that supported us, my parents, my friends. That was our show for this week. A brand new episode of the Raben Report will be coming to you next week, same day, same time. Almost same people.
Almost.
Have a great day, everyone.